Today is Friday, March 27th, 2026. Welcome to This Week in Natural Refrigerants News, where we recap the top stories on naturalrefrigerants.com. This podcast is generated and read by artificial intelligence and may contain errors. We're your hosts, AT and MO, and the articles for today's podcast were organized by naturalrefrigerants.com's managing editor and written by its writers. You can find links to each article in the show notes.
So, looking at the news this week, we're really tracking the sheer velocity of the natural refrigerants transition.
Yeah, from European regulatory fallout driving new hardware to U.S. supermarkets just scrambling for components.
Right, and it really makes you wonder if our global supply chains and, honestly, our technicians can actually keep pace with the demand.
Exactly. Well, let's start over at MCE 2026 in Milan. Danfoss just debuted their oil-free isobutane turbocore compressor.
Oh, the TNS 385s?
Yeah, the TNS 385. So we're looking at a 385 kilowatt capacity unit aimed at air-cooled chillers, but it can actually push 500 kilowatts for data centers.
It can, yeah. And I mean, that development didn't just happen in a vacuum. You really have to look at the European regulatory landscape here.
Like the PFAS restriction proposal.
Exactly, the one submitted back in 2023. Manufacturers are realizing, they urgently need high-capacity centrifugal options that just completely sidestep synthetic refrigerants.
So there was regulation actively forcing hardware innovation.
Right, it's forcing their hand.
Absolutely. It's like they're skipping the hybrid phase entirely and just launching a high-performance EV directly into the hottest market.
That's a great way to put it.
But with commercial availability targeted for Q4 2027, I mean, if you are building data centers right now, is late 2027 fast enough?
Honestly, it's an incredibly tight timeline. And if you're wondering who is desperate for this kind of scalable equipment, just look at the mega end users.
Oh, right, like IKEA.
Yeah, exactly. Over at the Atmosphere Europe Summit 2025, Inca Group's Joana Pereira laid out IKEA's roadmap.
They're deploying R744 and R290 globally, right?
They are. It's all to hit an 85% emission reduction target by 2030, and they're backing that up with a 1.5 billion euro real estate investment.
Wow, 1.5 billion. The scale is massive, but they are hitting some frustrating institutional roadblocks on the ground.
Yeah, specifically with insurance companies.
Because they fundamentally misunderstand the risk and compliance profile of propane.
Exactly. IKEA is practically pleading with the industry to step up with communication packages.
Just to clearly define these safety risks so underwriters will actually insure these systems.
Right, because the hardware works, but the institutional knowledge across different markets is just incredibly scattered.
That lag in institutional support is crazy when you look at how fast the manufacturing side is actually ramping up.
Well, the manufacturing side is on fire.
Yeah. Take the Henry Group. At IRR 2026, they shared that over 50% of the components coming out of their Chatham, Illinois factory are now for CO2.
And 3 years ago, that demand was literally zero.
Zero. Now, they've got an OEM talking about potentially doubling an order of 300 flash gas receivers. It's an absolute hockey stick curve.
It is a definitive market shift. I mean, end users and OEMs have made their decisions.
Yeah.
And now suppliers are leaning on this vast global network from Scotland to South Korea just to feed the U.S. appetite for these pressure vessels and relief valves.
Right, because over 90% of that product is staying right here in the U.S.
It's staggering.
It's like they spent years running a quiet local bakery, and overnight they're asked to supply bread for the entire U.S. Army. The whiplash on the supply chain is intense.
It really is.
And we know exactly where all those components are going. The latest NACU food retailer survey shows transcritical CO2 is absolutely dominating new U.S. retail.
Dominating is the right word.
Right. Out of more than 2,000 new stores planned by 18 major chains through 2029, 1,470 are going with transcritical CO2.
And if you're a retailer, you're doing this despite a 10 to 20% capital premium over legacy DX systems.
Mostly because of the AIM Act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're looking at the AIM Act phase-down curve, especially the steep cuts coming in 2029, and deciding that avoiding stranded investments tomorrow is easily worth the extra CapEx today.
Wait, hold on, though. Almost 1,500 new transcritical stores in 3 years?
Yeah.
Who is actually going to maintain these? I mean, the survey itself flags the lack of skilled technicians as a major bottleneck.
It's a huge issue.
Are we just building high-tech systems that no one in the field can actually fix?
That is the central tension of the industry right now.
Mm-hmm.
The capital is there, the hardware is ready, but the human infrastructure is just stretched incredibly thin.
Well, while retail fights that workforce battle, the industrial sector is finding massive efficiency gains without even touching the refrigeration cycle
Oh,
itself.
you're talking about the Cargill study?
Yeah, down at Cargill's Waco, Texas plant. Kushal Aurangabadkar's team ran a study in a deli meat cooling room running on ammonia,
Right, they installed those custom airflow diffusers.
costing roughly $80,000, which is practically nothing in this context.
The physics here are brilliant, honestly. By installing those diffusers, they just completely eliminated dead zones.
So instead of just letting cold air lazily drop from the ceiling.
They forced high-velocity air to directly hug the surface of the turkey rolls.
Wow.
Yeah, and that massive increase in the heat transfer coefficient actually cut the time to reach 4 degrees Celsius by 2 to 3 hours.
And it drastically improved the temperature uniformity across the rack.
It really makes you wonder,
About what?
well, if $80,000 of sheet metal can radically outperform a $1 million compressor upgrade in terms of ROI, what other low-tech aerodynamic blind spots are just hiding in plain sight across your facilities?
This is AT&MO, and this has been the week in natural refrigerant news.